Dupo hosts its first X-Trial of Nations, the 7th different venue in the Trials World Cup equivalent, where national pride is on the line. It's the 4th staging in France since the competition's inauguration in 2002, with dominant force Spain yet to be beaten. Four of the top 5 teams in the 2016 X-Trial of Nations return for the 11th staging of the championship. The USA are replaced by Germany, who make their debut in the competition, led by Franz Kadlec and alongside international newcomer Jarmo Robran. I've ridden indoors with Jarmo and also trained indoors with him in Germany. His biggest problem will be nerves, but if he can control this, he will put in a good result. For me, the X-Trial of Nations is a good way to finish the indoor season because the sections are easier and it's not an individual leaderboard. I can have fun, do my best with my teammate, and we'll see for the result. Great Britain's era of trials dominance was already at an end when the X-Trial of Nations began, and they remain without a win in the competition. But in the last few seasons in particular, they have never looked further from taking the title, missing out on the podium in 2 of the last 3 stagings of the competition.
Yes, I truly hope that it's going to be a little bit different year, hopefully more successful for the X-Trial of Nations team. I hope that my experience in the indoors can help myself and also Jack in this event. So I'm sure he will push a lot because he's not afraid to try everything and give 110% maximum effort.
Italy made a successful return to the podium in 2016, but a change to their lineup will introduce unknown quantity Luca Petrella in place of Gianluca Tourneur. And the team will be at a disadvantage as the only lineup without a 2017 X-Trial World Championship rider. Of course, if we'd been riding in the X-Trial World Championship, we would be a little bit calmer, because there's a very different technique required. But the important thing is to believe in yourself, give it your best shot, and try to finish as high as possible. That's our target. Hosts France present the only unchanged team in 2017, as they target the top 2 positions for the 3rd successive season. This year, obviously, our priority is to repeat last year's result, which was an excellent one. Then we're going to give our everything and wait for a small mistake from Spain. And if they leave the door open, the smallest chance, we'll try to take it. Jaime Busto makes his 2nd appearance in Spain's X-Trial of Nations team and his first alongside Tony Bow, who returns to replace Adam Raga after missing out on the competition in 2016 through injury. Last year I didn't have the privilege of being here, so this year I arrive here very keen. It's always difficult because these races are easy and it's difficult to gain advantages and easy to make mistakes. We'll try to enjoy it, take another title. It's always possible to lose, but we'll be going out to win, and we'll enjoy riding as a team, which is unusual for us. The 7,500 capacity Zénith de Pau returns to the X-Trial calendar 2 years after staging a round of the World Championship for the first time. In 2017, local fans are introduced to several new faces and to team competition as the X-Trial of Nations moves to only its 7th different venue. Germany's duo make their debut in the X-Trial of Nations. Great Britain can do much better than world number 4. Italy took a surprise podium in 2016 and will struggle to match it. Home heroes France have never failed to make the podium. And 10 times winners Spain intend to maintain their unbeaten run. The teams have selected their riders for the Lap 1 speed section. This will decide the starting order. For lap number 1, Germany are first up as the lowest ranked team from previous seasons, of course having not taken part previously in the X-Trial World Championship, and their first rider out is Franz Kadlec, completing the laid out course here. There's no penalisation for dabs or anything like that. It's all about getting home as quickly as possible. Franz Kadlec heading towards the end now of this speed section, and over the line the time is 20.74 seconds, and obviously the German the first rider out. So as the other teams come through, we'll see if that's a promising time or one that'll leave Germany first out through the sections as well as first out through the speed section itself. Great Britain next out, and it's James Dable for the Brits. Certainly got off to a slightly stronger start than Franz Kadlec, just steadying himself there at the top of one of the pipes, hauling himself round the turn. It's not been a perfect speed section by any means for James Dable, but it is faster than Franz Kadlec, and by over a second as well. 19.72 seconds, the time for James Dable. So at the moment, it's Great Britain on 19.72, Germany 20.74. Third out Italy after their brilliant podium finish last year. And their newcomer Luca Petrella will be the rider to tackle the first speed section, caught for some time there on that pipe. Of course, the rider who doesn't compete in the first lap speed section will appear in the lap 2 speed section, as is customary in X-Trial of Nations competition. That was a bit of a scrappy effort from Luca Petrella, and it's slower than the two riders and therefore two teams that have gone before him. So at the moment it's Italy bottom of the pile who would be first out through the sections, 22.88, over 2 seconds slower than Franz Kadlec. The penultimate team through the speed section, France, Benoit Bancaz, their representative here. Strong start for him, and it's already got the fans cheering. Is it going to be good enough to go provisionally top? It certainly looks like a great deal of alacrity here from Benoit Bancaz, who is indeed fastest, 18.81 seconds, and almost a full second faster than James Dable of Great Britain. So it's France ahead of Britain, Germany and Italy. That's the provisional order as Jaime Busto takes to the speed section. An incredible leap over that first jump, and Jaime Busto already seems faster than the riders who've gone before him. That was a great effort from Benoit Bancaz for France. Can the Spains get the better of it though, with Jaime Busto the first rider out, and comfortably faster, 17.69, and Spain assume the favourable last starting position for the lap 1 sections. So Italy, as the poorest through the speed section, will be first out on the lap 1 sections. Matteo Grattarola, their first to ride here. Italy 3 third places in 4 X-Trial of Nations appearances, including a well-taken bronze medal last year. Matteo Grattarola first out for them. Their senior rider, and the first to make 3 appearances for Italy in the X-Trial of Nations. Already 2 marks dropped by Matteo Grattarola in this section for his landing and then attempts to position himself on top of this rock. This represents a mid-section turn for the riders, and you can see that Grattarola is labouring over it. He's now up to 3 marks, and it's a failure for Matteo Grattarola. Each time he picked up the bike and landed it back down on the crest of that rock, he picked up another mark on observation. Of course, 4 marks of any kind is a failure, and that's the case in Section 1 for Matteo Grattarola. Straight on to Section 2 and the first appearance of the day for Luca Petrella. The 18-year-old making his X-Trial debut here tonight. 2016 Trial 2 rider, in fact won the final round of the season in his home country. Good start for Petrella, up the first of 2 major steps in this section number 2, a course laid out around these 2 upright cylinders. In theory, one of the easier sections of the lap, and no great surprise that the Italians have given it to their less experienced rider, Luca Petrella. He's up the second step and well as well. Good job. Oh, Petrella then slips backwards. And that's going to be a drop mark for leaning, although he does manage to steady himself and stop himself from slipping back for a second time. For a moment there, it looked as though he was going to drop back. Less than 20 seconds to try and complete the section within the 60-second time allowance and avoid dropping another mark. It's not been a great start for Italy so far, and that was a needless drop mark for Petrella because he'd already made it up. He's going to make it over the line, but he is going to drop a mark on time as well, fractionally outside of the time there, Luca Petrella. So 7 marks from 2 sections for Italy. On to Section 4, Italy with 7 marks at the halfway stage. Matteo Grattarola with his 3rd and final appearance of lap number 1, just slipping back after he made it to the top of the first of 3 sets of crates here. A dozen crates in total laid out at varying heights and angles. The challenge with them is those sharp corners. So easy to drop a mark for leaning as you try to make it over them. Matteo Grattarola already under pressure in the early stages of this section 4, and he's got himself caught at the top of the second stack of crates, and that's going to be 2 marks because he's used another one trying to get up, so he's on 3 now for the total. Can't afford to drop another, and he has done. So it's game over for Matteo Grattarola with a failure in section 4. He seems intent on continuing the section anyway, but Grattarola had dropped a mark after slipping back at the top of the first stack of crates, then got himself caught on the second stack, dropped back to a third, and then as he just leaned himself over the top, he used it as a sort of pivot, and that was a fourth and a failure in section number 4 for Matteo Grattarola. 12 marks for Italy from 4 sections. Into the final section of lap number 1 for Italy with Luca Petrella. 1 mark already dropped, 7 rock islands to make it over for the Italian. Of course, opening the sections, giving them a real disadvantage here, not having seen the other teams and how they were going to tackle these sections, and that's another drop mark for Luca Petrella. And that's a failure. So each time, again, that situation of each rock, he was dropping a mark on observation, and it's all over for Luca Petrella. Looks as though he's going to try and make his way to the finish, as we saw his teammate Matteo Grattarola do previously. That only really gives the other teams an opportunity to see how to get through successfully. It's not been a particularly successful lap though for Italy. After starting first, they've come up with an 18-mark total in lap number 1. 3 failed sections for Italy. We'll see if Germany can go better. Franz Kadlec is their first rider out on section 1. Matteo Grattarola failed this one, so can Franz Kadlec get the better of that tally? The German in his first full permanent season as an X-Trial World Championship rider in 2017. Finished 8th in the individual campaign. Already 2 dropped marks at the first turn of the section. Just on the crest of the rock there. But aside from that, it's looking good for Franz Kadlec, who makes it home. It's going to be 3 marks in total from section 1 for Franz Kadlec. So strong start for Germany, sitting on 3 marks at the end of 2 completed sections, 4 marks better than where Italy were at the same stage. And now it's the first appearance in X-Trial competition for Jarmo Robran, and it's not getting off to a good start for the German, who slips back before making it to the top of the tower, and that's going to be a 5-mark score for him. And Germany slip back to 8 at the halfway mark. So after his first failure in section 3, it's the second consecutive outing for Jarmo Robran, the 18-year-old for Germany. Doesn't get the front wheel up high enough and crashes down to a second consecutive fiasco and a second failure of the lap for Germany. Well, it was a good start from Franz Kadlec in the opening 2 sections. Since then, Jarmo Robran has dropped 10 marks. Germany sit on 13. 18 the total managed by Italy on lap number 1. So an opportunity for Germany to move ahead of their main rivals here this evening if they can successfully complete section 6, and they've sent out Franz Kadlec for it. That's a first drop mark there for the landing, a mark for leaning for Kadlec, but otherwise it's been a strong start for him. Can he get home without a failure here to move Germany above Italy at the end of the opening lap? We've seen various different countries appear as the 5th nation in the X-Trial of Nations, and few of them have managed to do anything to break in amongst the top 4 in this event. Germany hoping to do so in their first appearance in 2017. So far so good for Franz Kadlec in this section 6. 1 mark dropped so far, and he comes home inside on time to complete the lap for Germany on 14 with a single mark tally in section 6 that's 4 marks better than Italy did in the same section and gives them a 4-mark advantage going into lap 2. The third different partnership for Great Britain in the 3 years since the X-Trial of Nations returned. It's James Dable and Jack Price in 2017. Britain second in the all-time medals table with 6 silvers. Never quite able to beat Spain in 10 attempts. Good start for James Dable in section 1 that's cost marks to both Italy and Germany previously. Franz Kadlec the first to get through the section with 3. Matteo Grattarola had failed it previously. But it's all clean for James Dable. What a start that is for Great Britain. First appearance of the night for Jack Price. One of 4 riders making their debut here this evening. The 19-year-old reigning Trial 2 world champion from Huddersfield representing Great Britain. James Dable cleaning the first 2 sections. Can Jack Price continue that brilliant run for Great Britain? An unusual section, this one. It's representative of the traditional towers we get in French X-Trials, but a couple of mid-section hurdles to keep the riders on their toes. This is a tough one. 2 little hurdles, and then it's also about the landing the other side, which itself has some height. So trying to make it over the 2 hurdles without getting caught up, which Price does beautifully, but he has landed on the sump the other side. He didn't quite manage to reach over the top of that step. Difficult to make it on the back wheel without getting caught up in the hurdles and then land the other side on the tyres rather than on the base of the machine. Price dropping 1 mark then for leaning, but it has been a good first half to lap number 1 for Great Britain. A second consecutive outing for Jack Price of Great Britain, who sit on 1 mark so far. Is going to be another one as Price loses 1 for leaning at the top of the first stack of crates in section 4. Both Italy and Germany's riders failed this section. Matteo Grattarola of Italy, was a bit of a surprise to see him labouring at it, but he was the first rider through. And Jarmo Robrand didn't make it too far at all. Much tougher for him. Jack Price, though, so far it's a promising start. He's now on to the second of 3 stacks of crates and manages to make it over the top of that beautifully. Now it's the final step, and this one is up against him. It's slanted away from him, the top step of this, section 4. 1 mark so far for Jack Price. He's up the first of the crates. He's going to do them 1 at a time. That's going to cost him 1 mark as well on observation, but he's home clean on time. So it's 2 marks dropped in section 4. Price is the first rider successfully through. Well, this really has been an excellent lap for Great Britain. 4 marks dropped in the 5 sections so far. And James Dable now out for section 6. They've saved their most experienced rider to complete the lap. He's dropped 1 mark there on the landing for leaning. Most of the marks dropped actually tonight so far have been for leaning. The difficulty level itself is not creating too many outright steps or outright fiascos. It's all about accumulated marks through the sections. Both Germany and Italy struggling with that. Great Britain, though, have really excelled. And James Dable, good on time at the moment. Just needs to avoid making any last-minute mistakes, and Great Britain will be out of lap 1 quite brilliantly. 6 marks dropped in total on lap number 1. Great Britain comfortably ahead of Germany, who sit on 14, and Italy, who sit on 18. How will that stack up against France and Spain? Moving on to France, the form team of recent years, seemingly boosted by their home crowd, holders of that world number 2 ranking for the last 2 seasons. Alexandre Ferrer first out for them, their senior rider through section number 1 that was completed clean by James Dable. That will be the target for Ferrer. Oh, he slips back! He's down to a 5 mark score in section 1. A disaster for France and for Alexandre Ferrer. Benoit Bancaz, the French youngster who made his first appearances at Trial GP level last year. Something of an indoor specialist. He rode well for the French team on the way to 2nd position in the 2016 X-Trial of Nations. His 3rd consecutive outing here on lap number 1 after 2 cleans in sections 2 and 3 that made up some of the lost ground from Alexandre Ferrer's disastrous section 1 performance. This section 4 already failed by both Italy and Germany, so a real opportunity for France to make a bit of a gap to a couple of their rivals in the podium contest. It's still clean for Benoit Bancaz. Could he complete lap number 1 without dropping a mark? What a brilliant start to the day that would be for the French youngster. He's up the step that caught out Jack Price and dropped him a mark previously. He's over the top of the third stack of crates and home clean. A clean on lap number 1 for Benoit Bancaz. So 3 sections successfully completed and clean by Benoit Bancaz. It's back to Alexandre Ferrer. And the French fans are urging him to turn around his day after a failure in section number 1. This section 5, one of the easier sections of the lap. An early step with no great height, and this is the midsection turn that the riders have to negotiate. And once Alexandre Ferrer has made this, he should be home and dry. Luca Petrella and Jack Price both dropped a single mark here. Jarmo Robran, though, was clean, so it's certainly possible. Section 5, Robran failed his other appearances. Ferrer all on the back wheel, making the turn and home clean. His first successfully completed section of the day as France notch 4 successive cleans. The last section of lap number 1 for France and for Alexandre Ferrer, who failed section 1 but clean section 5. France on 5 marks. Great Britain finished lap number 1 on 6, so France have 1 mark to play with maximum if they want to remain ahead of Great Britain at the end of this lap. I'm sure they would have hoped for better than that even. Ferrer slipping to the left-hand side of the rock, and down he goes to another 5. Something about Alexandre Ferrer and rock sections. 2 failures on lap number 1, and they've both come from the senior French rider Alexandre Ferrer on rock sections. That leaves France 4 marks in arrears of Great Britain on 10. Well, there were very few errors and very little ground conceded by Great Britain on lap number 1, and that will be the target for the Spanish team. Spain fielding their 3rd different team in 3 years. No real signs of them slipping from top spots in recent seasons, unbeaten in 10 X-Trial of Nations appearances. So far so good for Jaime Busto on section 1. Section failed by both Matteo Grattarola and Alexandre Ferrer, 2 riders of great experience in X-Trial competition. 1 mark dropped for a dab there, just steadying himself on section 1, and that's going to be another for leaning, as he makes the turn and then on the landing squirms his way to the top, utilising the sump to make it, and has now taken another mark on this rock. So it's going to be 3 marks on section 1. A bit of a scrappy start for Spain that gives hope to their rivals. Two successive appearances for Jaime Busto. Now he's up on the cylinders. 2 major steps here, but they haven't posed too much difficulty for the riders so far. Only Luca Petrella dropped any marks on this section 2 of the 4 opening teams through the section. Spain with 3 marks from section 1. Great Britain, through James Dable, managed to clean that section. So Spain now only have 3 marks to play with for the rest of the lap, which is a total of 5 sections, but with Tony Beau set to feature in 3 of them, of course. It's not going to be an easy night for any of Spain's rivals. Busto makes it through both cylinders clean, and it should be a clean now on section number 2. The toughest part of the section seemingly complete for the Spanish youngster Jaime Busto. 2006 X-Trial of Nations winner, of course, alongside Adam Raga. And he's home clean on section 2 for his first successfully completed section of the day, as Spain remain on 3 marks from 2 sections. First appearance of the night for Tony Beau. 6 times X-Trial of Nations winner and newly crowned 11 times X-Trial world champion. This section cleaned by both Matteo Grattarola and Benoit Bancaz. Great Britain dropped a single mark here. So this is an opportunity for Spain to try and make up some ground, because Britain were clean through sections 1 and 2. Spain lost 3 marks to Britain on section 1. But there goes Tony Beau up on the back wheel over the hurdles as if they weren't even there. And section 3 from here should be pretty straightforward for Tony Beau. 2 successive cleans for Spain, who remain on that 3 mark total and the halfway mark on lap 1. So after 4 successive cleans for Spain on this lap number 1, following that error from Jaime Busto on section 1, it's Tony Bowe making section 6 look easy. His 3rd appearance of the lap. He's set to remain clean for the lap. The fans are enjoying it. Tony Bowe seems to be enjoying it. There's a World Championship gold medal here on the line, and Tony Bowe is signalling the fans. We haven't even completed lap 1 yet. Still urging on the fans, he's got that much time to make it through the sections. Spain 3 marks up on Great Britain, complete lap number 1 with 5 successive cleans and take a 3-mark advantage into lap number 2. Great Britain rode brilliantly to a 6-mark tally, and Spain just blasted them away after a shaky start from Jaime Busto in section number 1. Now each team's second rider who didn't take on the lap 1 speed section will take on the speed section to decide starting order for lap number 2, and the teams out in reverse finishing order based on their scoring from the first lap. So it's Italy first out with Matteo Grattarola, with Luca Petrella finishing bottom of the speed section on the opening lap. 17.69 seconds the target time, the fastest effort in the lap 1 speed sections. Of course, the course itself is unchanged, so that's the target for the riders to try and match Jaime Busto's lap 1 effort the fastest. 19.72 seconds for Matteo Grattarola, significantly faster than his own teammate went on lap number 1. And we'll see if that's good enough to give Italy a bit more of a favourable starting position on lap 2, because going out first through the sections was certainly a major handicap for them. Germany, who finished above Italy on lap number 1. Strong start to their debut performance in the X-Trial of Nations. Jarmo Robran, their rider here. A little bit laboured over the final steps through this speed section. It's 22.07 seconds and over 2 seconds slower than Italy. France, Great Britain and Spain all targeting 19.72 seconds then, the time set by Matteo Grattarola of Italy, who at the moment is fastest in the lap 2 speed sections. France's second rider is Alexander Ferrer. Had a bit of a disappointing first lap by all accounts. The most experienced of the riders compared to youngster Benoit Bancaz. So far so good for Alexander Ferrer, but like Jarmo Robran before him, a little bit slow through the final 2 steps and then slipping off the side of the last trunk. 22 seconds was the time to beat for the Germans, and Alexander Ferrer with 20.88, so faster than Germany but slower than Italy. You fancy that if it hadn't been for that slip off the last trunk, would have been extremely close between France and Italy. Great Britain next up after their second place finish on lap number 1. Jack Price, their rider here. Good effort from Price so far. Targeting that 19.72 seconds from Matteo Grattarola. Fractionally slower than that. Really fractionally. Less than 1/10 of a second slower than Matteo Grattarola. Jack Price, 19.73 seconds. So at the moment it's Italy, Great Britain, then France and Germany. And Spain with Tony Bowe. 17.69 seconds is what Jaime Busto managed. If Tony Bowe gets anywhere near that, then Spain will get the better of Italy and Great Britain, who sit closely packed together in the lead positions at the moment. Bowe is home. It's 18.5 seconds, actually slightly slower than Jaime Busto, but still good enough for top spot for Spain. So although the lap 2 speed section was the same as lap number 1, the sections themselves on lap 2 are in alternative configurations. This one, section 3, for example, is the same tower that the riders tackled on the first lap, but this time in both directions. So you can see Franz Kadlec has set off in the opposite direction to what his teammate Jarmo Robran did on lap number 1. And now he makes the turn and he'll go up the same way as Robran did on lap number 1, effectively a longer section 3 on lap 2. Franz Kadlec, in his first full permanent season as an X-Trial World Championship rider, finished 8th in the individual campaign. He's been the stronger of Germany's 2 representatives so far here today. Germany with a 14-mark first lap, 8 marks so far on lap number 2, with Franz Kadlec dropping 3 marks in section 1 and Jarmo Robran failing section 2. But it's a clean for Franz Kadlec in section 3 and finally some respite for Germany. Jarmo Robran in his second section of the second lap. failed 2 of 3 sections he appeared in on lap number 1 and has accounted for the bulk of Germany's drop marks so far. The 3 main stacks of crates, this time in reverse. And Rob Rand has made it up the first one. Can he do the same on the second and third? Germany's less experienced rider. This crate section caught out 2 riders on the first lap. If anything, it's more difficult in the opposite direction because the step at the end becomes a twist and a step, and that makes it much more difficult. Rob Rand struggling just with this second stack of crates. It's the third that'll really test the riders. Up and over for Rob Rand. He will have conceded a mark for leaning there, just as he used the sump as a pivot over the top at the midway point of the section. But this is the step I was talking about, because there's no run up here. The riders need to do it from this ramp, possibly make it up the first step before then making it up the second crate. But this isn't going to be easy for any of the competitors, let alone for the most experienced struggler in today's event so far. He's already exceeded the time allowance and just slips off the side of the bike on his way up to the top, to a second failure of the lap for Rob Rand. This will be his last appearance now of the lap. Jarmo Rob Rand, 2 failures on lap 2, 2 failures on lap 1. Really hasn't gone to plan for Germany on lap 2, and that's getting even worse for them now. They sit on 18 marks for this second lap, 35 overall. Franz Kadlec fighting for some consolation for Germany in the latter stages of the second lap. They sat 4 marks up on Italy at the end of lap number 1, but this hasn't been a good second lap. Jarmo Rob Rand with 3 failures. A slight increase in difficulty for the second lap is what we've seen so far on the basis of Germany's performances. They've already dropped 18 marks on this second lap compared to 14 on lap number 1. Franz Kadlec on section number 6. Of course, we don't know how important these odd drop marks might be later on. A dab there for Kadlec to steady himself. He'd already dropped 2 marks for leaning, so it's 3 marks on section 6 so far for Germany, but he does make it home successfully. The 3rd completed section of the lap for Germany, and the 3rd completed by Franz Kadlec, as Germany finished the lap on 21, and the day's total is 35. Well, France certainly on lap number 1 were in a separate battle compared to Germany, as Alexander Ferrer drops his first mark of the lap on section number 1. Germany then finishing on 35, and France with only 10 marks on lap 1 look realistically in a separate battle with Great Britain and perhaps even Spain if it all goes wrong for the favourites. But 3 marks already dropped here for Alexander Ferrer. Franz Kadlec dropped 3 marks on the same section. It's not been a great start to this X-Trial of Nations for Alexander Ferrer, who failed 2 sections on lap number 1. Thankfully for him, his teammate Benoit Bancaz is in superb form. Ferrer, the senior rider in the French team, who took part in the French Grand Prix in Nice last weekend. Home in section 1, but with 3 drop marks. Not a great start to lap 2 for France. Benoit Bancaz is out, and he really has got the fans up on their feet here today. He almost gets it very wrong, but in the end saves it with just 1 drop mark for leaning, of course, clattering into the sump. And there was a moment there where you thought he might slip backwards and down to a 5, but he still hasn't managed to fail a section here this evening, Benoit Bancaz. That, in fact, his first drop mark of the entire competition. France now on to 14 dropped marks over the 2 laps combined. 4 of them so far dropped on this lap number 2. 10 of them dropped by Alexander Ferrer with 2 failures on lap 1. Benoit Bancaz over the second cylinder. That's the 2 main steps completed on section 2. Impeccable, says the speaker over the PA system. It's 4 drop marks from 2 sections in lap 2 for France. Second appearance of the lap for Benoit Bancaz. This section was failed by Jarmo Rob Rand of Germany last time out. The step at the end of the section here proving the most difficult for the German. Alexander Ferrer asking the fans to urge on his young teammate. He does seem to revel in these intimate arena settings. Of course, there are plenty of national X-Trial competitions in France. Benkaz has limited experience though in the X-Trial World Championship, hasn't yet appeared in the individual competition. But this is going to be his second X-Trial of Nations and his second brilliant appearance. Almost perfect so far, just one dropped mark from his 4 sections. This is his 5th appearance of the event. And this perhaps the most difficult section he has tackled. This step is going to be tough. He's making more or less the same approach to it as Jarmo Rob ran before him. But can Benkaz go better and get to the top of the 3rd stack of crates here in section 4? The answer's no, and the front wheel doesn't make it up and he comes off spectacularly. The engine's still revving and the bike is going to come down as Benoit Benkaz fails his 1st section of the night. Alexander Ferrer will round out the lap for France, who sit on 9 marks for the lap, 19 marks therefore overall, comfortably home ahead of Germany, but that was never too much in doubt after Germany were already 4 marks behind coming into lap 2 and then suffered 3 failures. France only notched 2 failures on lap 1 and have only failed 1 section so far on the 2nd lap. Higher level of difficulty though has meant scrappier performances on sections they have completed. Alexander Ferrer with a better 2nd lap than 1st. 3 marks dropped from 2 appearances on this lap so far. That's going to be another 2 dropped marks for leaning on this section 6 so far for Alexander Ferrer, who's also going to have to worry about time here. He has been slower through the sections than his teammate here tonight. And he is going to miss out on time, only narrowly though on section 6, and that's a frustrating last lost mark for France, who scored 12 marks on lap number 2, but sit 13 marks ahead of Germany at the end of their X-Trial of Nations in 2017. So Great Britain have a clear target. It's 22 marks that they have to beat. They've got 16 to play with. Jack Price first out. Section 1 was completed by both Germany's representative Franz Kadlec and by France's representative Alexander Ferrer. Been a tough start to the section though for Jack Price, who seems to have himself wedged on this rock. Manages to get the bike up and turn, so 1 drop mark so far for leaning. Plenty of time to make it home here for Jack Price. He needs to be calm in his debut X-Trial of Nations appearance, and under some pressure now that Great Britain know what the target is set down by France. Price will more or less home, but then comes down towards the end of the section, and a frustrating 1st failure of the day for Jack Price. James Dable for his 3rd appearance of lap number 2. And his 6th and final appearance of the day in this X-Trial of Nations for 2017. After this, Great Britain hand over to Jack Price for the final 2 sections. You wonder whether they might have missed a trick there, because they sent out James Dable, their stronger rider, on section 3, which had already been cleaned by Franz Kadlec and Alexander Ferrer. They might have sent Jack Price out on that section to then be able to use James Dable when Great Britain will be under pressure in the 2 final sections, but that hasn't been the case. They've gone for 3 successive rides for James Dable. Can he make it over this step that's already caught out both the German and French representatives? Rob Ran and Benkaz. Dable much more experienced than them. He's moved himself onto the 1st crate, and now he's going to try perhaps to bridge up to the 2nd. Still not going to be easy, even with this different approach to the first 2 riders, but at least he's going to try something new. Well, he's already missed the 60-second time allowance. Almost up, but he loses his left leg and then loses the bike. Down he goes to a 5-mark score. Britain's 2nd failure on lap number 2. And now the pressure is on Jack Price. Great Britain 6 marks ahead of France's finishing total with 2 sections still to complete. Therefore, if Jack Price does manage to clean the easier of the 2 sections in the remainder of the lap, which is this one, section 5, Great Britain will be guaranteed a podium position, because they'll be guaranteed to finish both above France and Germany. But if Price drops a couple of marks on this one, Britain will be under real pressure. It doesn't look like he's going to. Britain beat France with a section to spare and are guaranteed a podium place. Price delighted with that effort in section 5. Now it's a question of what he can do in Section 6 as to what Great Britain's final finishing total will be. But even if he fails this, Great Britain will finish a mark above France. Price trying to do it without dropping a mark. He has ended up dropping one on observation there with a bit of a dab. It's now only about getting the better of Italy and trying potentially to challenge Spain, but Price has been a little bit sloppy on this one compared to his previous efforts that have been strong here today. Already 2 marks dropped for Dabs to steady himself. That's another, and well, it's a failure for Jack Price in Section 6, which is a shame because it has been a good day for the British youngster, but 2 failures on lap number 2. Britain nonetheless make it onto the podium, partly thanks to Jack Price's efforts through Section 5, which was a crucial moment in which he was under pressure and delivered the goods to beat France overall for Great Britain.
Very difficult, but are you very
Realistically, that looks like the podium positions decided in terms of Great Britain getting the better of France. But Italy, with a great performance in the speed sections, know what they need to do if they want to surprise either Britain or France and make it onto the podium. 21 marks the total to beat. Italy dropped 18 just on the first lap, so they need to do better than any of the riders before them on this Section 1. Matteo Grattarola, their most experienced rider, is first up. Just 3 marks to play with then for Italy on the entire lap. The best lap total so far has been 12 by France, so you can see just how tough that's going to be for Italy. But it is going to be a good start here, and maybe, just maybe, Italy could do something about their 2 rivals on this second lap. Italy's total now 20. Great Britain finished on 21 and France on 22, so there isn't much wriggle room for Italy, and just 1 more error on this second lap and it'll be game over for them. Luca Petrella is their representative on Section 2 that was failed by Jarmo Robran. Benoit Bancaz dropped a mark here. Italy can afford to drop 1 mark, 2 if their battle is for 3rd position, but no more than that if they have any hopes of making the podium. Spain still to come, of course. Petrella, though, is clean through Section 2 so far and matches James Dable. This is a great start to lap 2 for Italy, who are still mathematically in contention for the podium. Section 4 with Matteo Grattarola. Italy sitting on 20 marks in total at the halfway point of lap number 2, this Section 4 that has been failed consecutively by Jarmo Robran, Benoit Bancaz and James Dable. All 3 of the teams to go so far through Section 4 have failed. And Italy have sent out Matteo Grattarola. Grattarola also appeared in Section 3, which on paper was one of the easier ones. Perhaps the strategy might have been to give that to Petrella and hope for a miracle from Grattarola late on in this lap. But it's certainly keeping Italy right in contention for a podium place, which you wouldn't have expected to be the case after their lap 1 struggles. They really did bring it back with the speed section, and then by improving on their rivals' performances in each of the sections so far on this second lap. Can Matteo Grattarola become the first rider to complete Section 4? He's missed out on time. That's already 1 drop mark. He drops another to make it to the top of the section, but over he comes! Matteo Grattarola, the first rider home in Section 4. Great news for Italy. Well, it's going down to the wire for the podium positions. France finished on 22, Great Britain on 21, Italy sit on 22. Luca Petrella needs to be clean in this Section 6 to tie with France for provisional 3rd position. The French riders watching on. Benoit Bancaz looks over at his more experienced teammate Alexander Ferrer nervously. Oh, Petrella drops back. Well, it went down to the final section, which was a great effort from Italy, but they are going to miss out on the podium places as their final lap total is 27. 5 marks back from France, despite offering the best result of the day on lap 2 so far. So Italy left themselves with too much work to do after lap number 1. Spain, meanwhile, have put themselves in a brilliant position on lap 1 with just 3 drop marks, and they've got 18 to spare on this lap 2. 2 marks dropped for Jaime Busto with a dab, and also a drop mark for leaning there as he landed unsuccessfully on the crest of that rock. So again, not a great start for Spain, who dropped their only 3 marks of the first lap in the opening section, and have already dropped 2 marks in section 1 of the second lap. Jack Price, though, for Great Britain dropped 5 marks on the same section, so it's already a more promising start to lap 2 for Spain than it was for Great Britain. Tony Bow's first appearance of lap number 2, having ridden clean through lap 1. If he manages to clean this section 3 of lap number 2, Spain will already be champions in 2017, and with 3 sections to spare, they sit on 5 marks so far. 2 marks on this lap, dropped by Jaime Busto in section 1. Busto was then clean, though, in section 2. Great Britain finished on 21, France on 22, Italy 27, Spain on just 5, and with 4 sections to complete. So if Bow is clean here, Spain are champions. Just taking a moment to measure up these hurdles. He makes it over beautifully. Spain were clean on this section on lap number 1. They look set to be clean on this section on lap number 2. Spain are the winners in the 2017 X-Trial of Nations, and with 3 sections to spare. As always with Tony Bow, the celebrations wait to the end. There's still business to be done, but the business will now be one of show. A maximum possible total of 20 marks for Spain. Great Britain finished on 21. Can Tony Bow become the first rider clean through section 4? Matteo Grattarola was the first rider to complete it last time out with a brilliant 2-mark total. If it hadn't been for Italy's disastrous first lap, they would have been right up there and challenging for a place on the podium. As it was, they took it to the final section before missing out. The cheers erupt here in Po for Tony Bow to see whether he can make it clean through section 4, or whether even he will be stumped by this challenging obstacle. Very little run up, and the height of 2 blocks to make it. He's up the first, the second he has to use a mark for leaning, but Tony Bow does make it home. It's a single drop mark in section 4. The celebrations continue for Spain. On to section 6, the last of the rock sections. And well, what we've seen so far is Tony Bow all on one wheel, and it looks like Bow is going to perform one of his miraculous celebratory final section celebrations. He's home clean on the back wheel, and now the celebrations begin for Spain. A 3-mark first lap, a 3-mark second lap, comfortable winners in the end. Spain are on top once again in 2017, with Tony Bow returning to victory. An excellent second lap from Italy brings them above Germany for 4th in the final classification, but the podium positions remain unchanged from the end of the opening lap. We got off to a bad start on the first lap. I made a few mistakes on the rock section, which was very technical and unforgiving to mistakes. We brought things back on the second lap, but we were just a point from the British. There was nothing in it, but I think we can be satisfied anyway with 3rd position. We certainly wanted to do better. We were capable of doing better, but we made too many mistakes on the first lap that left us too far from 1st and 2nd positions.
Like you said, we rode really well on the first lap, and we would have liked to keep the pressure on Spain a little bit in the second lap, but you know, the second lap was more difficult, the sections were a little bit harder, and we gave everything we could. And I think a little bit more pressure because we know we were second, so then it was a little bit more nervous, but overall we're really happy.
I'm very happy to ride this year after my injury last year. I want to say thank you to Jaime, who had a great race. On the first lap we had to be precise because Great Britain was strong. Then on the second lap we both gave our best. I'm delighted to win with Jaime, who is my teammate and a great friend as well. This is a special title. Jaime Busto claims his 2nd title, and Tony Bow captures his 7th, with Spain under very little pressure on the second lap, on their way to an 11th successive victory in the X-Trial of Nations.